Okay, folks, how you guys doing? My name is Mark, and this is Why I Hate the World. What's happening? So, actually starting on time today. That's a new one, right? Let me know if you can't hear anything. Let's see. Looks like you should be hearing stuff though. Let me just check my audio real quick here. Let's see. Can you actually hear me? I really hope so. Uh, yeah, okay. Well, looks like you can hear it. Anyway, welcome, welcome, welcome. It is time for us to get down to business. And here's what we have been working on for the last couple of live streams. Here's our illustration so far. And it turned out pretty good, I think. It's got a sort of a, got our sort of halfling, half elf, half hobbit person hanging out in the middle of the forest here, getting attacked by goblins or something. And now we're going to actually color this. And I'm going to do something I never do. And I'm going to use traditional media to color this. So we're probably going to start off with like some watercolor and whatnot and just kind of wing it from there. Maybe just use whatever. I have this big old box full of watercolors and colored pencils and all of this shit that I like never use. Right? So I'm going to start using it. Anyway, I see we got a couple of viewers. Thank you guys for tuning in as we talk about stuff, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about. So, speaking of this, let me just arrange everything on my desktop so that I can keep an eye on the stream and see if there's any comments and stuff at the same time. Make sure that everything looks good. Okay. And also get my notes on the other window here. So, what do we want to start with? Well, I think the big news out there that we just kind of have to get out of the way, it is the elephant in the living room, of course, the turd in the punch bowl, that kind of thing, is Donald Trump catching the big C word. So, I'm just going to gloss over this really quick because, I made a video already about it. Kind of a hot take video, and it turns out, like I thought, he's going to be fine. And I think really what this more I want to talk about is the reaction on the, oh, is this green? Okay. The reaction on, various right-wing people, right, are having to this, First thing you're seeing is what happens whenever anything bad happens to, a conservative media figure or something like that, is the first thing they do is they immediately demonize anybody who says anything negative about them at all. Right. We kind of expect that to happen. So, there's some people on the left, for example, like the Young Turks are a good example, who are a little angry at the Biden camp for not pushing at this moment, because they kind of have Trump on the ropes right now, right? And the Biden people have made it a directive that they're going to cut all negative advertising at this moment. And this is I'm actually kind of happy they did this. And I said this in my hot take video, because you don't want to come off like a jerk, right? And I think what it is, because we got to remember, the Biden people are still trying to get undecided voters. And they don't want to, it looks like you're hitting a guy when he's down, So they basically, until Trump gets out of the hospital, they've said, okay, the mandate is no attack ads, right? And a lot of people on the left are saying, screw that, attack, attack, attack. For example, the Young Turks are like really angry at that. And it's like, Well, I kind of agree with the Biden people. It's like, no, I don't think people are so dumb that they're going to forget, you know, exactly all of the ridiculous things that Donald Trump has said and done in 2 weeks just because there's no advertisements about it, right? And really, people elsewhere on the internet are not relenting either. So that's one thing. But what they're doing is they're deciding to disarm the critics who would come out and say stuff like, you're doing these negative ads, and it makes them look bad. So that's why they're not doing that. So that's one thing, right? That hasn't stopped people on the right wing, the pundits, the conservative talking heads and such, from saying that anyway. Basically, trying to blame liberals and especially the Biden camp for being negative, and attacking a president who's sick, right? And you got to remember, it's kind of like with anything, it doesn't matter what we say, right? Like, they're going to attack anyway. Okay, they will always attack. So it doesn't matter. You shouldn't like try to placate someone, like your political opponent. You shouldn't try to placate them, right? And you shouldn't try to, because what that does is it ends up allowing them to dictate the terms of engagement. If you think about politics as a battle, which kind of what it is, right? You don't want your enemy to dictate the terms of engagement, right? And that's what ends up happening when you unilaterally decide not to attack from this angle or that angle. For example, and but sometimes it could be really, beneficial to heed that warning, right? And I think in this example it might be, because, like I said, people might get turned off if, the president's in the hospital fighting for his life, whatever, right? If they perceive it that way. I mean, because Trump's not fighting for his life. It looks like he's actually going to get released probably by Monday, so that's good. But people might, that might turn people off if they think, hey, he's sick, he might die, and then they see this negative ad about him. That might have the opposite effect. Another example of this is during the 2012 campaign, when it was Obama versus Romney. There were no ads attacking Romney on his religion or anything having to do with that, even though Mormonism is one of the wackiest religions there is. I mean, shit. I don't know. You seen the Book of Mormon? If you haven't seen the Book of Mormon, go watch it. But yeah, that's generally something that's seen as, off limits, that kind of thing. Used to be attacking a candidate's wife used to be off limits too. It's not anymore. That's the Republicans' fault. They're the ones that fucking broke that taboo. So anyway, yeah, so we got to talk about that. But, I wanted to see what some reactions from other conservative type people were. In particular, the wacky, crazy conspiracy nuts over at Qannon, what they thought about it. And because if you guys haven't been keeping up with Qannon, they have been kind of in denial about this entire thing. So one of the things you'll see from QAnon, one of the conspiracy theories from QAnon is that celebrities who get COVID-19, the celebrities who get infected and have to isolate, like Tom Hanks or something like that, are really under house arrest for, pedo charges, because the whole thing with assholes and their motorcycles. Anyway, the whole thing with QAnon, it's basically it's an extension of Pizzagate. That's basically where QAnon started, right? I'm slowly actually gathering info about QAnon, and I'm gonna make my own video. I'm thinking I might make a, sort of a what the hell is QAnon kind of video, because they're becoming more and more mainstream. It's, we're even seeing politicians that are acknowledging them, whether or not they actually believe in it or not. I'm sure there are a couple, right? But it's so popular that some of the, recent Republican, nominees and candidates are actually starting to kind of bend the knee to these people and, giving them shout outs and stuff in hopes of getting their votes, right? So anyway, yeah, so what happens is like, okay, well, now that Trump is infected, speaking of celebrities who are infected being under house arrest, now that Trump is infected, does that mean that Trump is a pedophile? No. And, so you're starting to see lots of these sort of contradictions getting exposed in the QAnon movement where they don't really know how to handle the news of Donald Trump, coming down with this disease here, One thing that we're seeing, if you go to like the wacky QAnon subreddits or on Facebook especially, is that they're afraid that Donald Trump will be assassinated by his doctors. That shit's hilarious. It's like I don't understand because, and it makes, the thing is, if you believe in this stuff, it makes logical sense, right? If the pandemic is just a hoax, created by liberals and all that other crap in order to destroy the country by forcing us into an economic downturn, right? If that's what you believe, then you must come up with some kind of excuse for the person that you believe is going to save you from all of this coming down with the disease. So there must be some other reason. He must not actually really have the disease. It must be something else. And so that's an excuse right there. It's like, oh, what he's really, they're really just going to assassinate him. And that also gives them an out in case Donald Trump actually does kick the bucket, which it looks like he's not going to. It looks like he's going to be fine, which we all knew. I mean, he's the president. He's got all of the doctors in the planet, and every single, rare and weird, untried medicine. Apparently they're doing stuff that hasn't passed the FDA. They're allowing that to get tested on him, which is a very bad idea, but, he's the president, so I guess they get to, if he wants it, he gets it. So, if 2 weeks from now Donald Trump, develops a third arm or some shit coming out the back of his, out of his back or whatever, where it came from, right? I mean, you all know my stance on untested medicine. But hey, he's a grown man. He can do what he wants. So whatever. And it's just funny, like, especially QAnon's reaction, but it's just, general sort of like anti-vaxxer, anti-masker people who believe that the pandemic is just a Chinese conspiracy or a liberal hoax. I don't know how it can be both a Chinese conspiracy and a liberal hoax at the same time. But, who knows when we're talking about conspiracy theorists. 1911, hey man, how you doing? Hey, by the way, before we go on, just to let you know, I'm going to take maybe the last hour of this stream, starting at around 9:30 or so, and not only read our comments here, but I was actually going to go back through some of the comments I have on other videos and answer some of those. So if you got anything you want me to talk about, please put it in the comments right now. But, and it doesn't even have to be about this subject. It can be about anything. Right. So anyway, that's one. Another thing, this whole time QAnon has been claiming that Donald Trump will prove that the big, C word is nothing more than a virus, a flu-type virus, and we have nothing to worry about. And that doesn't really square away with this either, because normally when you have the flu, you don't end up in the hospital unless you have some serious pre-existing conditions, right? Most people, even old people, if they're in general good health, if they get the flu, they'll be fine. And it's really only when you are already sick that you die from the flu, like if you have cancer, if you have some kind of heart condition, if you have an upper respiratory thing to begin with, or if you're just extremely old, if you're like, 86 or some shit like that. Well, Donald Trump's only 74, right? He's in generally good health. I mean, that's what he told us. We kind of already know that's a lie, right? He most definitely has some kind of heart condition thing that he's hiding from us. That he went to Walter Reed for a little while ago. Some kind of mini stroke thing happened to him too, but that's unsubstantiated. We don't actually know for sure. All we can really say is what they've released publicly, right? So even though we suspect that he's bullshitting, we kind of have to go off what they said. I need to move this over just a little bit. But anyway, but even then, you should be fine. If you get the flu, especially the flu, doctors know how to treat the flu just well, so if he got the normal flu, he would not be rushed by helicopter to Walter Reed Medical Center, nor would he have been on oxygen twice. They've already said that he has been put on oxygen 2 times, right? And apparently something else weird happened. Apparently he got in a car and like drove around the block and then went back to the hospital for some reason. I'm not really sure what's going on with that. I think what that was just a photo op so that they could get pictures of him on the news going back to the White House. But I don't know why they thought people would think he was going to the White House if they're just going to watch the motorcade go around the block and go back to the damn hospital. That doesn't make any fucking sense. So whatever. That's some funny shit. Then there's some other people, QAnon people, who are completely in denial that Trump has been infected at all, and they think he's just trolling the libs by pretending to catch it because it's all a hoax to begin with. So, what does all this mean? Okay, like, I don't understand that shit, right? I don't think anybody with a functioning brain would buy that either. But, these are conspiracy theorists we're talking about. What does all this mean, right? Basically, what we're seeing here is the equivalent of a failed miracle. Okay. What do I mean by that? Well, do you guys remember a few years back, I think it was 2011, there was this one preacher who predicted the rapture. You remember that guy? The Harold Landing was his name. Predicted the rapture. And he went and put up billboards, and the people in his church started selling their houses and getting all their affairs in order. And I remember it. There was even a billboard up around here in Los Angeles, And it was like, the rapture's coming, and it was on this certain date. I can't remember exactly when. And, the Bible proves it. The rapture is coming, right? Then, lo and behold, the rapture didn't happen because, the Bible itself says, no man knoweth the hour. As a matter of fact, I remember writing a blog post entitled that. I wrote a blog post for this called No Man Knoweth the Hour, Dumbass. That was my blog post. I should go reread some of those. Anyway. And then all the news people went to Howard Landing the next day. And of course, he was still alive and still in his body. He had not been raptured up to heaven to be with Jesus and all the little aborted fetuses and stuff. And he looked very confused. And I'll remember Harold Landing said, please, I have a lot of things to think about right now. Please leave me alone. I don't know if you guys remember that, right? So that was basically the failed miracle. It's when your faith that you have doesn't exactly line up with reality, right? And most people, I think, understand that there's a limit to what their faith is going to produce in them. Okay, so now I'm not very much of a religious person, okay? I've never had, religious experience, not really. I thought I had one once, but really it was just like, not, it wasn't, okay? And so where was I going with this? Oh yeah, let me actually I need to open my little tube here. So yeah, basically what most people understand that there's your religion, there's what you believe, and then there's real life. And prayer is not going to, it's only going to get you so far. And for example, if you just rely on prayer and you don't get a job and go work, you're not going to wake up in the morning and suddenly find your fridge full of food. That's not how it works. Right? You know, they understand that you pray and all that stuff, but then you should actually go outside and get a job and get some money and go to the grocery store and buy some peas and carrots and cereal, right? Because no matter how hard you pray, God is not going to manifest some fruits and vegetables and hamburger buns and shit in your fridge. They understand that, right? So, anyway, right? They understand that. Then there are some people that never learn that lesson. And it's like they buy into it hook, line, and sinker and believe that the shit. And you know what this says? It says that most people, right, know that their religion has limits. Most people know that their religion is essentially make believe, right? And that it's not going in such a way that it's not going to have any visible manifestation in their lives. And most people are okay with that. And whatever they draw from their religion, whether it's, you know, personal strength or some shit like that, or a feeling of well-being, or an understanding that when they die they have a place to go, blah, 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 or something, you know, whatever. Most people tend to understand that you can't rely on it for your practical everyday needs, and really, even if there's an emergency, it's not going to help you. And there will be really no outward physical manifestation of anything mystical or divine. Pretty much ever. Most people understand that. You know, most people understand that when they go to the doctor and their, you know, grandfather is dying of cancer, for example, and they pray to God to save them, really it's not God saving them, it's the doctor that's in the emergency room doing the actual surgery who is saving their grandpa. They understand that. You know, on some level. On some other level, they may go, you know, they may say to themselves, oh, well, my faith gives me the strength to endure these hardships, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. You know, that's what religion is for. Then there's other people that have, you know, they kind of buy into the Kool-Aid. And they start thinking this, you know, that if they just pray for it hard enough, it'll happen. Because that's what it actually says in the Bible. And I assume other religious books too. Right? I don't know. I actually haven't read the Qannon or any sutras from Buddhism or any shit like that, right? I've read some of the Bible, right? But, you know, Buddha provide, right? Or asking, you know, asking ye shall receive, whatever. Some people, the faith kind of, you know, they don't learn that lesson. They don't learn that lesson that well, you know, no matter how fucking much you wish for it, the shit's not just going to happen. And it's kind of the same way with these QAnon people. Because QAnon, if anything, is essentially a religion. That's what it is. If you haven't read about any of this stuff, QAnon is essentially a mystery religion. Oh, geez, this is all dried out. Okay, so much for that. See, I have all these paints and stuff. A lot of them that I've never even used. Like these. Are these all dried out? Let me see. This is blue, right? This is dried out. Oh, that one's not even opened. Okay, I can use that. I have all these paints and things, and lots of them that I've never even, like, opened before. And it's like, you know... So now I'm opening, like, this one, and I haven't opened it in, like, 10 years, and it's all dried out on the inside. Is this one dried out? Okay, there's a little bit in there. All right, that's cool. We can use that red. So anyway, yeah, that's what we're seeing in QAnon. That's what we're seeing in QAnon and these sort of conspiracy theory places, you know, where they're kind of like reality is sort of kind of coming in, you know, and they don't know how to handle it. So that's why you start seeing these weird ass excuses and you start seeing like all these bizarre theories about this and that. And you know, oh, Trump is just trolling. That's how he's you know, that's why he's pretending to have it so that way he can like, you know, pwn the libs and shit. You know, that's like that's the kind of thing that a religious nut would say. Right. So, is that dried out too? God damn it. Okay, hang on. I need to get some white. Do I have white around here? I think I do. I got a big old box. Paints and everything. Okay, let's open this up. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna wait. I was gonna do her skin next, but I don't want to screw it up. So let's just let's not mess with her skin right now. Let's make her dress. Okay, I can open this. Let's make her dress blue. All right. So anyway, yeah, it's kind of fascinating and sad to see at the same time. You know, if I were a sociologist or whatever, I think it'd make a fascinating paper. You know, the study of you know, religion in crisis in real time. Right. Because usually you have to kind of like observe shit like this over the course of many decades. And now we get to see it happening all at once. Like the buildup of a mystery religion and then collapse. And the next phase is usually something to the effect of, well, now it's all just legends and stuff like that. So, right. So the real person is becoming you know, the real person, Donald Trump, is becoming, you know, disentangled from the legend Donald Trump. Right? And now we're gonna, you know, so for example, if he dies at the hospital, then we're gonna see like this legend take form about how he was the best president of all time and all this other stuff. Right? Because that's usually what happens. Okay. So what I'm doing here, I'm just kind of putting a underpainting, you know, for all this. So this is not the final painting, obviously. This is just sort of like an underpainting, and then we're gonna go in afterwards with like, you know, like a base. This is like a base flat kind of color, so doesn't worry. And I'm not gonna worry. It can be all screwed up. I'm not gonna like, you know, because that's not really how it should look, right? Please also keep in mind that I actually haven't like done anything like this in literally a decade. I think it was 2010 was the last time I actually painted something or, you know, whatever. So this could be a disaster and I might screw this up completely and need to start all over. But that's okay. I got 3 copies of it. So in case I do screw it up, we can just start over next time and it'll just be like nothing, you know, like a complete do-over, right? That's the problem in real life. See, there's no you know, there's no undo button in real life. So I'm like all used to Photoshop and everything, and like I don't know, that could be a problem. Anyway, so yeah, QAnon is kind of in you know, there's lots of wringing of hands and gnashing of teeth, and they're definitely in crisis mode. Not exactly sure how to handle the fact that, you know, everything they believe is complete bullshit. And it's hilarious. It's absolutely fucking hilarious. So anyway, I wanted to spend some time on this video here talking about various right-wing, you know, militia type groups, right? And give me 1 second here. Starting with this group called the Proud Boys. So who are the Proud Boys here, right? Well, they and why do I want to do this? Because during the debates earlier this week, they were specifically brought out as a hate group, which the moderator asked Donald Trump to, gave Donald Trump the biggest softball of all time and asked him to disavow white supremacist groups, which Donald Trump did not do. And he turned around and he said back to, I can't remember the moderator's name. He's that Fox News host. I can't remember his name. Anyway, Trump refused to, disavow white supremacist groups and said, who are you talking about? Right. Literally the easiest layup question ever. Right. He wouldn't straight out say, I disavow white supremacists. He instead turned to, whatever the guy's name was. What the fuck was his name? Chris something. I can't remember. Right. And said, who are we talking about? And then Joe Biden said, what about the Proud Boys? Like, he mentioned the Proud Boys. And instead of saying, I disavow the Proud Boys, he said, stand back, or stand down and stand back. Right. Or is that what he said? Stand back and stand down. Something like that. Right. Basically, blew it. When all he had to say was, I have nothing to do with those guys, and I disavow any hate group or violence whatsoever. Instead, he said that, and then he immediately turned around and tried to turn the question around, is what he tried to do. And he started talking about Antifa and shit like that, right? Because, that's what Donald Trump does, is that he attacks. He doesn't, right. So he immediately turned around and said, well, it's not right-wing violence, it's, it's Antifa, it's the left wing. Which, yeah, okay, that's fine, but they weren't talking about the left wing. See, what that is, that's a deflection, okay? They weren't talking about Antifa, they weren't talking about the left wing, they were talking about right-wing violence. All right? So it's sort of like if, whenever you say, what about this, what about that? We're not talking about that. We're talking about this. Okay, you see what I mean? And that's a debate tactic, in order to deflect from a question you don't like. That's what that is, right? And, so even the people on Fox are saying he blew that one, a lot of people are turning around. Basically, that was kind of like a big thing he's being criticized for. But what has that done? Well, it has brought out these Proud Boy assholes and made them prominent in the news. Okay, so who the hell are the Proud Boys? Well, they're a group, they're not really a white supremacist group, but they have a lot of connections to the alt-right and white supremacists in general, right? So they do allow non-white people in their group. So they're not like a hate group in the same way as, say, like, the KKK or the Aryan Nations or, some shit like that, right? But, you don't have to be a white supremacist in order to be part of the alt-right, right? In order to be even a hate group, you don't have to be a white supremacist group, right? And they are, according to the Southern Poverty Law Center, they are classified as a hate group. And who is it that they hate? Well, specifically gay people, trans people. They really seem to not like those guys, right? They really seem to not like minorities in general, even though they have minorities in their ranks. Well, how does that work, right? Because some people are saying, okay, well, they can't be how is it that they hate minorities, but at the same time there's minorities in their ranks? Well, it's sort of like when you say, I can't be racist, I have a black friend. It's kind of like that. So it's like, well, who are these guys, right? One thing that they say is, they say they're there to defend the Western world, right? And that they're Western chauvinists is the term they use. So by Western, that's pretty much just a weasel word for white, right? And the idea is that, well, we can have minorities in the group, and the minorities that are allowed are like the good ones. You know what I'm saying? Right? So that's how they kind of get away with that. It's like, okay, well, you know, the black people and the Mexican people and the Latinos that we allow in our group are the good ones that acknowledge, And it's kind of like I said, like when you say, oh, okay, well, I don't like, you know, these people over here or whatever, but I like you because you do X, Y, Z. You're one of the good people, you know. And that's one of the things that a lot of people kind of bullshit themselves with in order to tell themselves that they're not racist. Well, I'm not racist. I have black friends, but I just don't think that, these people over here, these welfare queens and whatever, right? Whatever racial slur you're going to use, N-word kind of thing, those are the ones causing all the crime and eating up all the welfare money and, whatever. Those are the ones causing all the problems. But you, my friend James, or whatever, you're a great guy. You're one of the good ones. That's kind of what it is. So, but it is true that they are not specifically a white supremacist group, It just so happens that when they were formed, there seemed to be an awful lot of alt-right, white supremacist type people, right? They were, that were involved in the beginning. It seems to have kind of moved away from that. So, who were they? Well, they were started by a guy named Gavin McInnes, who was an independent journalist and has his own sort of like online show or whatever, right? And he is a very interesting character, Gavin McInnes. He is kind of an asshole, right? Definitely conservative. He started Vox. So Vox, the news outlet, right? Vox is actually a very somewhat well-respected news outlet that does investigative long-form journalism. But it's funny because before, when the time that Gavin McInnes was there, they were kind of, filled with, basically racist bullshit. And then he leaves, and then they become like this fully, respected news organization. It's funny. It's like the guy leaves and then suddenly they blossom. Right? I'm not the only person to notice this. And what's really funny is that after McInnes separated himself from Vox, apparently he was forced out or something. Right. The other founders went on to like make millions of dollars from Vox. It's like McInnes leaves and then suddenly like they make all this money because they become real journalists. Right? And he didn't get any of it. So that's some funny shit. Apparently he's pretty bitter over that crap. I don't know. That's the rumor. I don't know how true that is. Right? I mean, it could be bullshit, but whatever. Right. McInnes is very, very. He's definitely a character. There's photos of him peeing in his own cereal and eating it because some like website nominated him for their Hipster of the Year award or some shit. And then he said, well, if I win this award, I'll piss in my own cornflakes and eat it. And so they gave it to him, so he actually did it. I am not going to show you pictures of that for obvious reasons, but look them up. It is definitely true. It is definitely him. He ate his own urine in his cornflakes. There's also one time on his show, I think it's an online show. One time on his online show, he wanted to prove that he wasn't homophobic, so he stuck a dildo in his own butt to prove that he wasn't homophobic. I don't know how that happens, you know. I can tell you I'm not homophobic, and I don't need to stick something in my butt to prove that I'm not homophobic. So, yeah, you're right. 9/11. I'll get to that in a minute. The masturbation thing. Right. So yeah, that's McGinnis. So now, like my viewer here, 1911 greater than all just said, there's the speculation is that the Proud Boys were founded as a joke, right? As and there's a lot to that theory. Their name comes from the song "Proud of Your Boy" from the Aladdin musical, right? Which kind of leads credence to the idea that, yeah, it was founded in irony, right? Another thing is when you join it, you have to get jumped in, and apparently there's some shit about like reciting your favorite breakfast cereal or something while like the other guys are beating you up. There's video of this weird ritual, and they're not really beating anybody up. They just sort of push them around or whatever. So, and then there's apparently grades to the Proud Boys because it's sort of like a fraternity kind of thing. And there's grades to it. And the entry level grades say that you're not allowed to masturbate or talk to women that you're not married to or some shit like that. And, there's videos of actual journalists walking up to a Proud Boy trying to talk to him, and the journalist will be female, and then, like, the guy just won't say anything. Right? And it's like, the fuck? Like, dude, answer the question. And, like, the guy will just sit there staring at her, and it's like, is he, like, afraid? Does he not speak English? Whatever. And apparently it's because he's part of this junior grade where he doesn't have permission to speak to, like, women. And, so I don't understand that shit. Whatever. Right. Now, however much the actual group has moved past all of this, we don't know. Right. Because when you see them at their rallies and stuff, it definitely seems like a lot of that sort of weird irony shit has kind of gone by the wayside. But, I mean, I really don't know. I have a video here that I want to kind of play for you guys. Right. Let me see. Where's my video? I have this video by... Did I save my video? Shit, I didn't save it. Wait a minute. Let me see if this is it.
I hear someone go, didn't...
Wait, stop. Okay. Let me just turn off. Okay, I gotta wait for this ad to go by real quick. Yeah, there's a video by a channel called Status Coup, right? Where they go to a Proud Boy rally. And let me just make this fully big. And then I think I can get away with playing this if I just shrink it down like that, right? Oh, wait a minute. Did I just shrink the wrong thing? No, I want to shrink these guys. I want to shrink this thing. Yeah, there we go. Okay. I want to make this big. Sorry, guys. Give me a second. All right. And I want to make this thing big. And I want to make this... All right, thank you. And I want to make this thing over here small. And put it in the corner. And this way I think that it should be able to get away with actually, like, playing this. and hopefully the YouTube bots won't kill us. All right, because I want to make some comments on this video. So this is a channel called Status Quo, which is really awesome. If you guys get a chance to check them out, and they're basically going and interviewing some Proud Boys. Okay, and I just want to say, like, because in this in these sorts of interviews here, it definitely seems like it's not a joke. All right, so whether this started out as some kind of like, you know, some kind of ironic joke thing that, you know, I don't know whether it has or not. It's kind of evolved, and it's basically they're essentially a militia. You know, you'll see these guys. They've got weapons. They're wearing body armor, right? They most definitely are not standing around, ironically, you know, being racist or whatever, or stuff like that for the lulz. You know, they're serious. They mean what they say. So let me go ahead and play this for you guys. And let's see here.
If you're not familiar, was started by Gavin McInnes, who also founded Vice Media. He separated from Vice Media a few years ago. He separated, in fact, from Proud Boys, citing, you know, collaborative differences. He still remains involved. Say that this event is much, much smaller than we had anticipated. They were estimating around 800 to several thousand people. There's probably maybe a couple hundred people here.
And that's, yeah, that's one thing that we got to remember. There's not as many of these guys as it looks. Okay. If you were to believe, you know, what you see on the media or what you read on Reddit, stuff like that, you know, you would think that there were hundreds and thousands of these guys all over the place. And that's simply not true. Okay, there really aren't. There's really not that many of them. And this is like, this also applies to, like, you know, militia groups and just hate groups in general. They may have a lot of sympathizers, but they don't seem to have, like, the membership that everyone's afraid of, right? And generally, when they go to these protests, they're usually outnumbered a lot. You know what I mean? Like, we mentioned this when we were talking last time. We were talking about the Unite the Right rally and how there were just, like, you know, 1,200 of these guys was, like, all that they could get from around the country, whereas the left-wing counter-protesters, you know, outnumbered them, like, 20-1 or some shit like that. So that's one thing to remember, is that, you know, they might be very active, they might be very loud, you might see, you know, you might see sympathizers for these guys online and stuff like that, but the actual real numbers of people who are out there going to rallies and you know, tracking down people and beating them up, shit like that, not that many. All right. The disturbing thing is that they seem to be growing, you know. It's definitely increased in number over the last couple of years, but it's like, it's not like they have an army of fucking brown shirts that are going to go out and, like, you know, take over the country or some shit like that. That's just not true. Okay, so anyway, let's keep going here.
Instead.
Not just George Soros, you got groups like Apple, Google, SPLC, the ADL, who are leftist-leaning organizations, and donate money to these other nonprofits who give money away to these groups. Antifa, John Brown Gun Club.
Okay, so what the fuck is this guy talking about? Well, so he mentioned George Soros. All right, George Soros is like the big evil liberal kind of mastermind in conspiracy circles behind all bad stuff that wants to destroy America. According to, you know, if you're basically a conspiracy theorist, George Soros is like a Bond villain. Right? He's the, you know, he's the funder. He's the guy that has his fingers in everything. He's the one that causes all the bad stuff. You know, he's the secret kind of guy pulling the strings behind BLM and behind, you know, behind all of the liberal professors in every college that are brainwashing your kids to be Marxists and who are making you use non-gendered pronouns and forcing your business to close because of a pandemic and making you wear a mask, right? And putting putting up 5G, 5G towers around that are going to give you cancer, and using space lasers to like cause forest fires in California. That's all George Soros. He's the guy that, you know, the insane conservative, insane conservative conspiracy theorists, people, they blame everything on him. Everything from, you know, vote tampering. You know, he's the guy that's paying the illegal aliens to go around in buses to go vote 17 times or some shit, and that's why Hillary Clinton had a larger, that's why Hillary Clinton won the popular vote and Trump didn't. Right? All of this shit. They blame it all on George Soros. Okay, so that's bullshit. You'll notice some other things that he listed there. The SLPC, Southern Poverty Law Center. Excuse me. Those are, you know, that's a prominent anti-hate group that tracks hate groups, basically. That's what they do. They're the guys that, you know, they're like a watchdog group. Southern Poverty Law Center. Right. They keep an eye on hate extremist groups around the country. And, you know, not every hate group is conservative either. There's there's hate groups from all political, you know, agendas, right? And races and colors, you know. So it's not just, you know, it's not just the KKK and skinheads and stuff like that. There's also guys from, you know, say the Nation of Islam or whatever, right? Stuff like that, you know, these crazy black liberation groups. They keep an eye on those guys too. You know, they keep an eye on anyone who's an extremist and who uses hate to further their political agendas. Right. But, you know, they must be full of leftists and they must be funded by George Soros if they are against the Proud Boys, right? So that's why they're in there. Right. So basically what this guy right here with the plugs in his ears just said was a laundry list of weird-ass QAnon conspiracy theory bullshit that has no basis in fucking reality. That's what that guy just said, you know. All of that shit. And it's just, and you know, and it kind of goes to show like how this stuff cross-pollinates. You know what I mean? How it's like, you know, there's a Proud Boy guy who believes in conspiracy theories, right? And it just like, it's like, well, why do you think he joined this group in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, how does somebody like this develop these beliefs to begin with? You know, how does it start? It starts from, you know, going to websites where there's misinformation and listening to people spread lies. And before you know it, you know, it starts with him going on Reddit, reading a bunch of crap in some subreddit somewhere, you know, that is not true. And before you know it, he's out there in the middle of the street, you know, beating up commies. In fact, I think he even says that.
If they weren't funded, we would be able to destroy them in a couple quickies.
And these gangs are doing that. So Black Lives Matter wants to eliminate police because actually the founders, if you read their page, they claim to be 3 lesbian separatists who hate black men. If you remove the police, they hate the nuclear family and they don't like heterosexuality.
Drinking, by the way.
So
I was drinking out of this that made that noise. That wasn't me farting. Anyway, if I fart, I won't cover it up.
by removing black men that they hate, by removing police, black men will kill each other. Then they're achieving their lesbian separatist goal.
Yeah. Did you just hear that lady just said? All right. This is what we're talking about. When we're talking about, you know, conspiracy theorists and wacky shit that people believe. Right. So what did she just say? The founders of Black Lives Matter were 3 lesbians who hate black men. Right. So they want to revolt against the police because they want the police to kill the black men. Right? That's what she just said. The scary part is that people believe this shit. You know, she actually believes that. That woman right there that just said all that ridiculous. I mean, that's the most ridiculous fucking thing. I don't know. I would hope so. I hope that you at home watching this think that's ridiculous. All right. You know, I don't know. Anyway.
What made me want to join is Antifa. Antifa are the ones that made me want to join. You got men throwing bricks at women and children, throwing bags of piss and at people.
So remember this day.
Yeah, so Antifa, for those of us, if you remember, they're anti-fascists. That's what Antifa stands for. Right. So Antifa is out there to fight fascists. Okay. That's their stated goal. All right. Up until this year, I don't even think you could name anyone who they've actually murdered. Right. There was a guy a few weeks ago who shot somebody from Patriot Prayer. We'll come to Patriot Prayer in a minute. Who you could probably say was an anti-fascist. He described himself as like that. Right. Antifa is not an organization. There is no head of Antifa. There is no HR department in Antifa. Right. There is no overarching chapters. You know, they're not like the Proud Boys. The Proud Boys have chapters. They have leaders. They have guys who organize all of this stuff and pay for everything. Antifa does not. Antifa is an ideal. Right. So, you know, and the entire, they come out when the fascists are on the move. When they have things that they see are fascist. So, when you have a hate group that's out having a rally, you know, for example, the Unite the Right rally, that's when Antifa shows up. Because they're there to fight the hate group. Okay, so basically what that guy just said was, I'm there to fight the people who are fighting the hate groups. Right? That's now, you know, I know that Antifa has become this sort of, they've become demonized. Right? Out there. Because, and what it is the reason they've become demonized is because they actually kind of fight back. And sometimes even fight first. Right? Whether you agree with that or not, you know, personally I don't. I think violence should only be used in self-defense, right? But I'll tell you something, if there was a bunch of Nazis marching down my street and a bunch of guys dressed up in black went to go beat up the Nazis, I'm not going to do anything to hinder them, right? And to be honest, if the Nazis start taking over the country, right, like, which it seems like shit seems to be happening that way, I don't think it's exactly there yet, but I don't know, getting a little close. You know, if the fascists actually start taking over the country, you got to kind of make a choice. Like, when do you decide that actual violent resistance is worth it, right? For me, that choice, I think, is when democracy is suspended. Right? So, what do I mean by that? Well, if it turns out, let's say, this election that, for whatever reason, the powers in charge tried to stop the election, let's say that happened, right? Then I think, okay, that's it. that's the bridge too far for me, right? When you declare martial law and suspend voting rights and threaten to throw everybody in prison for trying to vote, right? Then I think, okay, that's revolution time. You know what I'm saying? That's when it's like, all right, they're putting this away. Some other people think that, you know, we need to stop it way before it hits that point. You know, and it's like, okay, well, I can understand, but what you do to stop it before it hits that point is peaceful protest, right? You know, you don't take direct action to rebel against the government. Okay. And, you know, the thing is, what they're doing now kind of fits into peaceful protest kind of a little bit. You go and you protest, and, you know, if you look at a lot of these BLM protests, for example, right, they're not actually attacking anybody. They don't attack police. You know, they're like sitting there. What they're doing is they're not, you know, running away. You know, you'll have like a line of guys who like will put up umbrellas. Right. So that way when the police shoot, you know, rubber bullets and shit like that, they can't see who they're aiming at, even though rubber bullets go right through those umbrellas. Right. Or it's more of like when they shoot tear gas canisters, you know, it'll bounce off the umbrellas, right? Or pepper spray. Pepper spray. The umbrellas will defend against the pepper spray. And then there will be a line of guys behind them that will pick up tear gas canisters and throw them back. You know, stuff like that. And then there'll be a bunch of guys in the front who'll have shields so that when the riot cops come up and push them, you know, and the thing is they're resisting, right? Now, whether you think, you know, because that is actually technically against the law. You're not supposed to do that. You know, when the police come and they try to shut down your protest or whatever, the law says that you're supposed to leave. That's what the law says. All right. Well, there is no protest without breaking the law. Okay. That's one thing you got to remember. You know, there's protesting lawfully doesn't really do anything. You know, the whole point of having a protest is to not obey. You're protesting, right? It's not called obeying, it's called protesting. So, you know, if you just do what they tell you to fucking do, then why are you even out there? All right. So, no, you know, the point of protesting is to protest and say, no, I'm not going to leave. You know, I'm going to stay here regardless of your order. And you have to take the responsibility for that as well. So when the cop comes to arrest you, you know, you have to have that, you have to understand that's the consequence of your protest, right? And that's kind of what you want. You kind of want to get arrested. You know, conceivably, you would want to get arrested. Now, I'm not going to blame anybody for trying to not get arrested. But what I'm saying is, you know, the idea is, okay, you go before a judge. Judge says, why didn't you leave? Then you say, because I was expressing my First Amendment right to free assembly. And, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right? And then they sentence you to whatever, community fucking service or whatnot. You know, even though some states are trying to pass very, very draconian laws in order to, like, put protesters away for years, that's some disturbing shit. Right? But that's the whole point of fucking protesting. The whole point of protesting is that you're not supposed to just obey when they tell you to do something. You know, you're supposed to be protesting, right? You can do that in a peaceful way without hurting anybody, without burning anything down, without assaulting anyone. And you can also do it in such a way that you don't assault or burn anything down, but at the same time, you don't roll over when the cops come to shoot you with rubber bullets and tear gas. You know, and I think people are confusing those things. They're confusing resistance with, you know, violence. It's not violence to, you know, have a shield that stops rubber bullets. Right? It's not even, you know, it might be passing the line to throw back a tear gas canister. It's definitely passing the line to throw a rock at a cop. You're not supposed to do that either. But that's what fucking happens at these things. And I can understand why somebody would do it. Because they're pissed. They're pissed because, the cop just shot their friend in the head with a fucking rubber bullet and almost killed him. Right? So I can't condone violence at any of these things. I can say I understand why it happens. But anyway, how did we get on all of this in the first place? I don't know. I kind of went off on a tangent. We were talking about Proud Boys. So why don't we get back to it?
And encourage your friends, your families, all of them, and hold strong, hold steady, hold fast. Because it's not over. It's a long time. Come November, Trump may win, he may not. We don't know. I think he will.
He's going to win by a landslide.
Trump,
look at those boat parades. Look at the car convoys. We are freaking everywhere.
Yeah.
We're an army, and we're going to take the country back.
Trump 2020.
He,
Take it back? Take it back from who? Who are you going to take that country back from? Who are you going to take it back from? The Trump is already the president. The conservatives are already in power. You're going to take it back from who? What? And why? Why? So you don't have to use gender specific pronouns on people? Is that what you want? I mean, what the fuck? Why I don't understand these people. It's like, we're going to take it back from the guys that we support who are already in charge, I guess. So, this shit is not, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because, look at who we're talking about, but whatever.
held his knee way too long. Like Breonna Taylor,
Breonna Taylor, she wasn't asleep. She was in the hallway behind the guy, and he shot at the police. But it has nothing to do with race.
Yeah, that's bullshit. That is not true at all. Breonna Taylor was asleep. She was in her room, in her bed. The guy did shoot, but see, according to what that lady just said, that kind of made it sound like Breonna Taylor was an accomplice and a criminal and had it coming. And that's complete, total bullshit, And it's just very funny how, all of these things interrelate. Here goes a woman, it's not about race, but she's believing the racist talking point. The blame the victim talking point there. If it wasn't about race, then how come you're just repeating the same shit that the racists say? How does that happen? I don't know.
Has anyone found George Floyd most likely died from the fentanyl that he ate? He had 4 times the lethal dose in his system at autopsy.
That is not true either. So I want to, before we move on with that, I've got a little thing here. Let me just kind of go over here and let me turn off my monitor real fast. And because I actually took notes on that. Yeah, George Floyd did not die because of fentanyl overdose. Here is PolitiFact. Let me turn on my left monitor again. Here goes PolitiFact. And let's just make this bigger. Okay. Coroner saying George Floyd during a drug overdose, not police brutality. That is false, according to PolitiFact. 2 autopsies found George Floyd's death was homicide. Here's the summary. 2 autopsies concluded that George Floyd's death was from homicide. The Hennepin County Medical Examiner said that Floyd's blood work showed a fatal level of fentanyl according to the court documents, but he didn't say this killed him. The official cause of death is cardiopulmonary arrest complicating law enforcement subdual, restraint, and neck compression. So, what does that mean? It means that yes, he did have fentanyl in his system, and yes, it may have been a lot, but no, the fentanyl did not kill him. And if the cops didn't strangle him to death, he most likely would be alive today. So, see, that is another talking point that's being, you know, sent out there by Blue Lives Matter types and racist types in order to deflect from, you know, and remove the responsibility from the police and blame the victim with, right, that's another one of those talking points. And it's like, lo and behold, you know, the woman here who was claiming that it's not all about race sure does seem to like, you know, repeating those talking points. Damn it. Why does it always grab that one first? That's weird. I don't know why it does that. Let's make this small again. Let's make this bigger. There we go. Anyway, moving on.
Dying when he's standing by the police car.
But I know one thing, that when the conservatives came to town, they thought tear gas was good. So tear gas is bad unless it's for conservatives. So that makes me think that they think that we're subhuman.
It makes me emotional even because...
Yeah, what that guy just said right there was bullshit too. There was, in Portland, no instance where the police were shooting tear gas at conservative protesters. That guy just lied straight to your face right there. That was a 100% lie. You know, they never, that didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Complete, total fucking bullshit. Moving on.
Because I got grandparents that want to go out there and stand up for their rights, but seeing Antifa attack them, that's what made me want it. Our elderly and our women and children, that's why I joined the Proud Boys. To be here, and you know what? I might have to go to work tomorrow on Monday with a black eye, but I'd rather do it and then you go to work with a broken jaw, you know what I mean? So that's why I joined the Proud Boys. I joined it because I wanted to beat up some commies, dude. Like, and I hate to paint that picture, but you know what? That's why I joined. I watch Fox.
Wanted to beat up some fucking commies. You know, you could have just led with that, buddy. Right? Instead of trying to basically bullshit us with a bunch of, like, empty platitudes. Right? You know, what did that guy just do? That guy just basically explained a bunch of stupid horse shit. And then turns around and goes, I joined because I wanted to beat up some commies. Well, you know, there you go. So, people join Antifa because they want to beat up Nazis. Is there a difference? Is one better than the other? I don't know, but let's not try to pretend that these guys are out there defending the Western world. Right? Or some shit like that. Or defending, you know, defending America, when in real life their motives have nothing to fucking do with that whatsoever. You know, in real life they want to go beat up commies. That's exactly, you know, that's what the guy said. Why should I not believe him? Right? So does that, you know, does that make them the exact same thing as Antifa? Does that make one better than the other? I don't know. If I had to choose some people to beat up, I'd rather beat up Nazis and not so much commies, because I don't give a shit about commies, because communists have no power ever. They have nothing, no power whatsoever, and they're not advocating on putting people like me in concentration camps. And what that guy doesn't realize is that they would put him in a concentration camp too. So, I don't know, but I'm not calling that guy a Nazi, but, you know, because he obviously isn't. I just think that he doesn't understand what he's fighting for, and he doesn't understand what he's fighting against. And I think a lot of these people in this video are very, very divorced from reality. Let's turn this video off. Right? Because it's embarrassing. So, let's get rid of that left monitor thing. You know, I mean, that's part of the reason why I make these videos, and I try to appeal to my political opposites, right? While at the same time not holding any punches back. I think that's kind of what my style is. You know, I'm trying not to sugarcoat things, you know, but I'm also, you know, because you gotta be real with people, right? I think people experience enough bullshit in their day-to-day lives as it is, right? And, you know, I think they can smell it when you're feeding them a line of horse shit, right? So I try to be as, you know, I try to be as blunt and truthful with this stuff as I can, right? Let's see. How are we doing so far? Let's take a break. Not too bad. You know, I'm just kind of putting in a flat color right now, you know, and then what we'll do is we'll put in all the flat colors, and then we'll kind of go over it a little bit and put in some more variation, right? And then we'll do highlights and, you know, shadows and highlights, and then clean up afterwards. So that's what all of this is, you know. I had a whole bunch of markers. I think some of this might go better with more. And you know what? Screw it. I'm not going to use markers. I think we'll just continue on with watercolors now. What time we got? 9:53. Wow. I really got through. Jesus. I got through like 20% of all my prepared material here. Not very much at all. But I did say that I was going to take some time in order to go through some some comments and stuff that I got from people. I did have a lot of shit. I was going to talk about Patriot Prayer. I was going to talk about the government coordinating with right-wing hate groups, that kind of thing. This video became more about just the Proud Boys and, you know, QAnon, right? But that's fine. So let's take, let's say it's 10 o'clock. I'll probably stay on until 10:30, 10:45. But I want to go through here and I want to look at some comments that I've got here. So you guys can see the kind of comments that I've got. Let's see. Let me turn on my monitor again. Left monitor. Actually, no. And you know what? And you don't really need to say it. I'm just going to kind of read through some of my comments that I've got from the last like bunch of videos. First off, let me see what's in this video. So looks like you got some stuff. 1911. Let's see. 1911 greater than all. I don't think people are making the argument that Corona is a hoax. From other conservatives, and the majority opinion is that coronavirus is hyped. Also, yo, there most definitely is a contingent of people on the right who believe the coronavirus is a hoax. That is not something we're making up. Right? That's most definitely a real thing. Coronavirus is a liberal hoax. You see it, you know, the wacky people on Facebook kind of thing are saying this, right? And you definitely see it from the QAnon sort of insane people. You know, the whole thing, it's a Chinese hoax, right? Donald Trump himself even said it was a hoax, if you remember. It's the latest hoax that the Democrats are bringing out. Those are his own words. He even said that. Wow, this is like, this paint sucks. What the fuck is this? Sorry, this is like a bottle of paint that's like all old and crusty. So, okay, that doesn't look good at all. I'm just gonna have to cover that up. Keep forgetting there's no undo button in real life. Let's see. I got some other green here. This is some weird ass metallic green. No, I'm not using that. What is this? This is permanent light green. Let's use some of this stuff. Okay. If I can get the tube open. Oh, god damn. Okay, there we go. So yeah, that's most definitely real. You know. But yeah, you're right. It's more of the more mainstream people are saying it's just hyped up. You know, it's not as bad as everybody says. You saw some shit a little while ago where people were claiming that the talking point went out that really it was only something like 9,000 deaths were attributed to the C word, and the rest of it was like due to other diseases. That was another conservative talking point that went around Facebook, and you even saw that coming out of like people like Ben Shapiro and shit like that. You know what I mean? Like the other 200,000 people who died was like because they had, because they had heart problems, or because they were morbidly obese, or because they had cancer or something like that. And only 9,000 people died from the disease, right? Which is another load of complete bullshit, right? So yeah, there is a lot of denialism going on, and you know what it is? It's the same people who are the kind of, alternative medicine sort of anti-vaxxer people. And there are people on both the left and the right that believe this shit. People on the left believe it when it comes to alternative health. You see a lot of that sort of alternative health wackery going on the left. People who think that, all you got to do is do yoga and eat vitamins and stuff, and then that'll you don't have to go to the doctor. And then some of them get really wacky and they say shit like all you need to do is just drink water and look at the sun or whatever. Right? They call them breathanarians. You just have to breathe and get sunlight on your face or whatever, and then you'll survive, and you don't even need to eat or something like that. So you get lots of weird shit like that coming out of the left and the right. But a lot of the right wingers, a lot of that, sort of translated into, COVID-19 is a liberal hoax, a Chinese hoax, right? And yeah, let's not forget that Donald Trump said it himself. Of course, his context, when he said it, it was the context that it was a hoax the liberals were bringing up in order to make him look bad. This is when the pandemic first started, so that's where that whole thing comes from. But it most definitely is a real thing, What else? Okay. C virus has overwhelmingly killed old people concentrated in care homes. The idea that normal people are at extreme likely risk of dying due to corona is similar to the flu. Yeah, dude, that's not true. That's not true, dude. I'm sorry. And I would hope that the president getting it would change some minds about that. Now, it's true that young people without pre-existing conditions are less likely to die from it. That's not 100%, right? It's not 100%. Some people will die from it. A lot of young people do have pre-existing conditions as well, okay? It's not as many as old people, but there are plenty of young people who have diabetes, who have, asthma, right? Who are overweight, who smoke, who have heart problems, right? Tons of younger people. And then when you start getting into people who are my age, people in their 40s, shit like that, the older you get, the more lethal it becomes, right? So, no, it's... And here's the thing, okay? Even if it is due to other complications, would those people have died if they didn't catch it? So yeah, okay, so you do have hypertension and high, whatever, right? Would you have died if you didn't catch this disease? No. Okay, so what actually killed you? Was it the hypertension, or was it, COVID-19? I mean, seriously, come on, man. Right? This is what we're talking about, okay? And yeah, I mean, shit, so... Sorry, dude. What else we got? I think Trump just gets tired of being badgered. He is probably the president that has had it the worst in terms of media coverage. He isn't going to satisfy some stupid, empty platitude like white supremacy. Well, that comes with the territory, man. What did he think that he was joining up for? All right? I mean, the president is the most powerful person on earth, arguably. He's got the keys to industry. He's able to make a phone call and launch nuclear weapons, right? The most powerful person in the country. I remember one time I was reading, God, I can't remember some book, but it was some journalist who was talking about how this was during the Clinton administration, how there were guys with binoculars looking through the windows of the White House to see what Bill Clinton was eating in the morning, like to see what his breakfast was. Right? So it's like, yeah, man, if you don't like being badgered, then I'm sorry, he's in the wrong freaking job. You know, because that comes with the territory. It's kind of like when famous people have to put up with the paparazzi. Well, who's more famous than the freaking president of the United States? All right. The president, the president is so famous that you get famous for interacting with him. You know, there was a joke, a Dave Chappelle joke. You know, president's so famous that, you know, if you give the president a blowjob, it makes you famous. Right? It's something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly what his joke was, but it was something like that. So yeah, man, sorry. Well, he should have fucking, you know, if he doesn't like getting badgered, should have thought about that shit before he, like, signed up, ran for fucking office. He can always quit if he doesn't like it. Serious, man. Shit. You know, I'm just saying, man, let's you know, it's been 4 years. It's time to stop making excuses for this fucking guy. All right? He knows what it takes. He knows what the job is. He knows the pressure that it puts him under. You know? So, we don't get to say that. He doesn't get to say that he's a rookie anymore. He's not a fucking rookie. Right? I mean, he's had 4 years to get this shit right. And he still doesn't seem to know what the fuck he's doing. It's like, oh my god. How can anybody vote for this asshole? Anyway. That's getting off sidetrack there. I don't know. What else we got? Let's see. 40% of corona deaths linked to nursing homes. Well, yeah, but that's where the old people are, right? So that's the highest at-risk group, because those are the people who have the most pre-existing conditions, the most, you know, most conditions that will be exasperated by an infection, right? But, you know, does that make it okay then? You know, does that mean that we should not take precautions, right? I mean, I'm not exactly sure what you're trying to say. I mean, so just because 40% of people who die from it are 65 and older, please remember that means 60% of those deaths are not tied to, you know, nursing homes, right? That means, you know, you're saying 40% of the people are tied to nursing homes. Well, what about the other 60%? That's the majority is not tied to nursing homes. Let's keep that in mind, right? Does that mean that we should not take any precautions in order to protect ourselves? You know? My mother is 63, okay? So does that mean I should just go over there without a mask on? You know, fuck it. Whatever, she's not in a nursing home, she'll be fine. No, man. You know, does that mean that we should just take no precautions whatsoever? Because, hey, if you're not old, it's not going to affect you. That's bullshit, dude. I'm sorry. I can't support that at all. You know, because it's not all about just you specifically, right? What about the other people that you may infect? You know, what about the people that, you know, even if you and your family are fine, you may spread it to somebody else who ends up dying from it. Even if that person is not in their 60s, or is not in a nursing home. Right? Because we don't know, you know, you don't know how somebody is going to react. Maybe they just get a bad case of it and it kills them. Maybe they have some pre-existing condition, right? Well, you would say to them, okay, well, then they can stay home by themselves and shit like that. Well, you know, you can't stay in your house all fucking day. You have to go outside and, like, go shopping and go to work, right? And, like, you know, get gas for your car and get pet food and bring your kids to the fucking doctor. It's like, you can't survive by staying inside all day. It's not possible. All right? So, what do you do in that situation? Well, you know, conceivably, everybody should be sheltering in place. If we would just fucking do that, we'd probably have this shit under control. But we're not going to do that, and we can't do that. because the government's not going to help us, right? Because in order for us to do that, they would have to actually, like, provide money so people don't get evicted from their houses. Well, they're not going to do that, you know. They gave us $1,200. That's it. We're not getting another one. At least not until the election's over. All right. So you can thank Mitch McConnell for that shit. So people have to go to work. Okay? There's no choice. People have to go to fucking work now. Right? So how do you prevent this disease from being spread when you're forced to go outside and interact with people? You know, the only way to do it is what? You know, you have to take precautions. You have to wear a mask. You have to, you know, if you can work from home, you have to work from home. I'm lucky. My job allows me to work from home. You know, I'm very lucky. A lot of people out there don't have that ability. They can't do that. You know what I mean? They work retail. They work in restaurants. You know, they work at a place that, you know, a garage, you know, fixing cars, shit like that. You know, they work at a place that requires them to actually be there. You know, they don't work in an office type setting like I do. They don't have choices. They don't have a choice. So you got to keep yourself protected, right? That means wearing a mask, right? That means not going places that you don't have to go to. That means not going to large gatherings, that kind of thing. And it's exactly that unwillingness of people to take these basic fucking precautions is the reason why we don't have the shit under control. You know, 9 months later. Right? It's been 9 months. We don't have it under control in 9 goddamn months. Because people aren't wearing their fucking masks. So, I don't know. Maybe now that dear leader has the fucking disease, maybe now people finally take the shit seriously. At least that's what I would hope so. I don't know. But as we saw from the way that, you know, QAnon reacted to it and everything like that, maybe that was just a little bit too much to hope for. Right? You know? Because it's all one big goddamn conspiracy to these fucking morons. Anyway. Yeah, well, so why don't you just say shelter in place even though you said it was impossible? Well, it's impossible because we're not getting any assistance from the government. Right. It would be possible if they would give us the assistance that people need, you know, like they did in Europe, like they did in Canada, right? Those guys got the assistance that people need. We're not getting it. So we have to go out and put ourselves in danger to go work. You know, when conceivably if they would just pay for everybody to stay home for 2 or 3 months, then the shit would be over with. If they did that and everybody stayed home, because think about it, you know, it takes what, 14 days for it to go through its cycle. If everybody just stayed home for 3 months, right, and we only had essential people out there working, grocery workers, delivery guys, people keeping nuclear power plants from melting down, shit like that, right, the number of infections would drop, and then before you know it, the people who had it would be over it and shit wouldn't be spreading anymore, and then it'd be gone. And that's all it would fucking take. And if they just would have done that in the goddamn beginning, it'd be over with, and I'd be able to go to the movies and get sushi and all the other shit I've been wanting to do for fucking 7 months now. Right? But they're unwilling to do that. They don't want to spend the money to do that. That's why it hasn't happened. So, you know. So if you want to blame somebody, you know, blame the people in charge. Anyway. Let's see. Let's go through. I'm going to take some comments that I got here. Here's my channel. Let's make this bigger. And I want to take some of the comments that we got here to kind of go through. I think there was one that you actually said a few videos ago. As you can see, these are my comments. Most people just telling me to fuck off or calling me names. You know, here's the guy, how does it feel to be a filthy mongrel with no racial identity? These are the kinds of comments I get, folks. Right. So whatever, but I think there was one. Here it is. This is one that actually you said about 2 weeks ago, 1911. Now, I kind of wanted to answer this. This was during a prior stream. We were talking about the Paris Accords. Paris Accords wouldn't even hold China legally accountable. The only country that could have been punished legally would be the U.S. China would be under no obligation in order to improve pollution standards. So why the hell would we sign up for that when we would be the only country penalized? We wouldn't have been penalized. Okay, first off, all right, the Paris Accords, there was no penalty involved with that. It's not like we'd be fined money or any shit like that if we didn't hit the goals, right? That's actually what you just said right there is actually a criticism from the left on these climate agreements. It was the same thing with Kyoto as well. Lots of people angry because they said the same shit. Kyoto has no teeth, So why are we doing all of this when, there's no actual penalties for not reaching your goals, right? Well, first off, so that's the first thing is that, there actually was no penalties, nothing that they could even hold us to as well. I mean, what are they going to do? Like, fine us billions of dollars or some shit like that. Secondly, it's kind of like one of those things like, well, if your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do it too, kind of thing, right? It shouldn't matter what China's response to global climate change is. What we should be concerned with is our response. You know what I mean? So basically, because what you're basically saying is, well, what about China? Well, what about them? Who cares? Who cares what they do? This is what we're gonna do. All right, that's what I mean by that. And you see the same thing. People actually talking about the pandemic. They say the same thing. They go, well, this was all China's fault. Because like the Trump administration is trying to blame this on China. This is all China's fault. If they just would have told us, they tried to keep it secret, blah, blah, blah. If they would have told us about this beforehand, then we would have had it under control, etc., etc., etc. And it's like, well, maybe. But, does China are they in charge of our response to the pandemic? Fucking cars. Okay. Is China are they responsible for our response to the pandemic? Did China withdraw us from the World Health Organization? Right? Did China refuse to join up with the worldwide effort in order to create a vaccine? Is China the one preventing us from passing a stimulus bill in order to get people the economic relief they need? No, China didn't do any of this. Is China involved? Are they the ones who are dictating our national testing policy? No. Okay. It's basically that's just diverting. That's blaming the problem on China. It's like, it has nothing to do with them. Like, it doesn't matter if the rest of the world did absolutely nothing. That doesn't change the fact that we should be doing something in order to try to curb global climate change. We're seeing the effect of global climate change right now in the country. Something like 22 different wildfires going on in California alone. And there's also some in Washington, right? There's some in Oregon. Okay, so it's basically like, there's even some in Canada. It's like wildfires all along the west coast of the continent. On the east, you've got these massive floods due to repeated hurricanes. I think that they've had so many hurricanes this year that they've ran out of letters. So they've had, usually, because that's what they do with hurricanes. They'll name them according to letters of the alphabet. Hurricane Andy, Hurricane, Betty, etc., right? They've gone through the alphabet already, so now they got to start over and names, with a different naming scheme, right? that's kind of unprecedented. I mean, what is that? 26 hurricanes in a fucking year? I mean, are there supposed to be that many? You know, did they have that many 50 years ago? Right? You know, a couple years ago there was in the Midwest, incredibly insane, you know, negative temperatures. Like I think they called it a polar spike or some shit like that, and it was like snowmageddon. I think is what they were saying in the news. You know, that just went across the entire Midwest. Like the entire Midwest just had these like insane polar fucking ice cap temperatures that were just freezing everything down. Like that shit never fucking happens, right? You're seeing stuff like rainstorms in fucking Saudi Arabia, right? Australia, like the entire goddamn country burned down in Australia, right? Like this last year. I mean, that was up in January, right? So it's like, yeah, man, I think at this point it's undeniable. You know, this is just not some normal shit that happens all the time. This is like, you know, I mean, it's time for us to kind of get our head out of the sand here, right? And understand what the hell's actually happening, you know? And we got to do something about it. We got to do something about it because, you know, if we don't, we will die. Right? We will die. You know, China is the top polluter. Yeah, well, you know, that doesn't matter. So what? So what if they are? Okay. The United States does roughly 25% of all the carbon emissions in the world. Right. We have 5% of the world's population. We have 25% of the world's carbon emissions. So even if China is the biggest polluter, it behooves us as a major fucking contributor to it to do something to curb our fucking carbon emissions. Now, even if we got our carbon emissions down to 10%, right, or 15%, that's a massive, massive progress. That's tons and tons of progress. And, you know, it will create, the thing about it is that it will create jobs. Okay. The thing about, you know, a green economy is that it will create jobs. So right now you got, like, say, for example, in Virginia, you got all these coal miners who are running out of jobs, right? Their coal mines are shutting down. Well, why are their coal mines shutting down? Because they can't compete, okay, with cheaper forms of energy. They can't compete with solar. They can't compete with fracking. Fracking is really the major, you know, major competitor there. That's driving the fucking coal mines out of business, right? So, how do you get these guys jobs? Well, one thing you can do is build your solar panels there. Open a factory to build some solar panels. You know, at least they'll have something. I mean, it's, you know, because I mean, what else can you do to get these people jobs? What, train them to be fucking web developers? Good luck with that shit. You know, you're gonna get some guy who's like 53, been doing the same job for fucking 30 years, some shit like that. Sit him down, be like, here you go, man. Here's HTML fucking basics. Good fucking luck. That's not gonna happen, right? You know, what can a guy like that can do is he can run machinery. You know, he can run machines that build shit. Because that's what he's been doing his whole fucking life, running machinery. You know, well, instead of like running machinery that fucking brings coal out of a mine, he can run a machine that, you know, builds a solar panel. Right? That should be some shit that he can like learn how to do. And it's like, well, there you go, man. So it's like there's no, you know, there's no downsides to shifting to a green economy, right? But yeah, well, you know, unless you think it's all some conspiracy run by fucking George Soros and the Chinese for some dumbass reason, then yeah, good luck. So anyway, that was one I wanted to respond to. I wanted to respond to that, you know. But I got some other ones. Let's see. I noticed there's lots of me and you going back and forth. Let's see what else we got here. I got lots of bickering between me and Antifa people. Here's a guy talking about, time to end the Electoral College. Right. Triple G. So this is my video a few weeks back where I was talking about the Electoral College and how it sucks and how we should end it. So let's let California and New York decide everything. No thanks. Best decision, separate. We cannot live with a party that advocates for their stupid bullshit. Let them the fuck out and they can blame whites for all their problems. See, this is what I deal with. This is what I deal with, And it's like, all right, well, if you don't believe in democracy, that's fine. Then, don't try to just don't bullshit me into saying that, you actually support America or that you're a patriot. So what is this person advocating for? Oh, well, there's more people that live in these states. So instead of letting them, instead of counting all the votes, right, and, trying to, win them over and letting whatever policy or politician gets the most votes win, instead of that shit, let's just kick them out of the country. Let's let them leave the country because we can't live with their stupid bullshit. What, first off, is the stupid bullshit that people in California, for example, are advocating for? What is a law in California that nobody else wants in the rest of the country? What? Legalize the marijuana? That's a law here. Is that stupid? I mean, I guess, if you don't like marijuana, right? Just because it's legal doesn't mean you have to smoke it. Let's see, gay marriage? That's another thing. Well, that's legal nationwide. Thank you very much. Before it was legal in California. California was not the first state to legalize gay marriage. So, yeah, that's kind of dumb. Doesn't make any fucking sense. Right? I mean, what else is, what? The Clean Air Act? Is that what you got a problem with? So that's what California says, that your cars have to have a clean air, a clean air option. You don't like having clean air? Is that what it is? I don't understand these people. I made a video a little while ago after the RNC where what's his name fucking Trump Jr.'s fucking wife, whatever the hell her name was, Katie fucking, whatever the fuck her name is, I can't remember her name, basically got up, and I don't know if you guys remember that, and she's like, just look at California. It's, in California, they like to call California like a, liberal hellhole and all this shit. What policy exactly is it that California has that nobody likes? What is it exactly? What is a law here that is illegal in the rest of the states that turns California into a hellhole exactly? What? Services for homeless people? Is that what you don't like? What? Restrictions on gun rights? That's all it fucking takes? Is that you gotta have, some laws against certain types of firearms and waiting periods and things like that, and that turns California into a complete hellhole? I don't understand it, and it's just sort of like, you see that a lot in California. A lot of conservative people who bitch and moan about how it sucks here so much, like Ben Shapiro, for example, or Laura Ingraham. They both live in California. They both live in Los Angeles. But, they bitch and moan about how it's this big evil fucking hellhole, but none of them are moving to fucking Texas. Right? If you don't like it, get the fuck out. Of course, they're not going to get the fuck out. You know why? Because California is a nice place to live. That's why. Okay, because it's better in California. Alright? That's why people live here. Okay? Especially if you're somebody rich like Ben Shapiro or Laura Ingraham and you have money. If you have money, California rules. Okay. So anyway, yeah. I don't understand that shit. So, whatever. Let's see. Anti-notify and identification of those afflicted with HIV/AIDS to their partners. Stupid. Well, I think that's a little overblown. What that is that you don't go to prison for not doing that. So there used to be a law that said if you didn't notify a partner that you had HIV or something like that, then that person would go to prison. And it would be like assault with a deadly weapon. And from what I understand, I could be wrong here, but what I understand is that that's the law that got struck down in California. It's like, okay, you don't go to prison for not telling somebody you had HIV/AIDS. Okay. I personally think that's fucked up, but I don't know. Should you go to prison for that? I don't know. I think you could be held liable for their, health care after that. But to be honest, I really don't know. I mean, I generally err on the side of not throwing people in prison for things, as much as I can. So, I think that was a court decision, actually. I don't think that was an actual law that got passed. I'd really have to look that up. But anyway, that is a good point. I will research that one. Okay, what else we got here? Here's a video I did on... you know what? I think let's just end it there. I think that's enough of this. Let's turn this off. Wow, 2 hours really goes by really fast, doesn't it? I mean, dang. Anyway, let's see where we're at. So, I think it's coming along. I'm just sort of putting in flat colors, like I said, And, it's looking okay, I don't know. I mean, this could end up really sucking really hard. Like I said, it's been a very long time since I've done anything in traditional media. But, let's see how it turns out. I'm not ready to quit just yet. I'm just putting down flat colors. I think I might need to do a little more variation on things, like... That is to say, all the greens shouldn't be the same green, all the browns shouldn't be the same brown, stuff like that. That's usually a good idea, too, when you do stuff when you do an illustration like this, try to vary it up some, because if you look in real life, all your trees are not the same shade of green, right? Stuff like that, branches are different shades of colors, etc., etc. Not really sure what color to make our goblin dudes. I guess I can make them green, but there's already a lot of green in here already. I can make them red. There's no red here. Yeah, that could work. Goblins can be red. Anyway, I think we can end it now. It's been 2 hours. I think this is good. This stream got really sidetracked here. Like I said, I had a shit ton of fucking material to get through. But, we'll just save it for next time, and maybe I'll have to organize it a little bit better. I think I tend to go off on kind of rants and stuff for a little bit. But anyway, thank you guys for joining. I see we still have 3 viewers. Thank you, you 3 viewers. Thank you, 1911. As always, it's cool to talk to you. And I'm going to go ahead and do my ending speech here. Let's see, let me go to... I got all my links right in front of me. So, let me just open up all my stuff and then, go through it one by one. I didn't do this my last stream, my last couple of streams, and my sales went way down, so that's why I gotta do it. Okay, folks, so anyway, if you like what I do, I have a Patreon. Please consider joining my Patreon. It's very cheap. I have $1, $10, and $20 levels. So please, if you like what I do and you want to see more, please consider joining. If you don't like Patreon, I do have an SD shop that you can buy stuff from. So if you don't want to actually do a recurring thing, if you just want to support, but you still like what I do and you like my artwork or whatever, please consider buying something. This is one that we did over the last couple of streams. It was this Plague Demon. I made a scroll out of that, you know. Um, Here's another one. Let me go back here. Here's the one that's really popular. This is based on an H.P. Lovecraft character. Why is that cut off? God damn it. Quit being cut off. There we go. So, there we go. So this is based on an H.P. Lovecraft character. You know, this one's really popular. Zoom in. There we go. Right. So yeah, you know, and I usually sell these for around 14 bucks each, 15 bucks, something like that. So if you like what I do and you want to support me, please consider buying something. I'll put all the links to all of this shit down in the bottom. I do have an Instagram at Dirty Kitchen Press, so you can see all the stuff I've got on Instagram. Here's some sculptures and stuff like that. And, you know, I usually put like sketches here, that kind of thing, right? And for the rest of my artwork, I have a DeviantArt site. So here's my DeviantArt, you know, which usually I'll have a lot of comics on here or fully colored pieces. Here's some She-Ra fan art. I don't know if you've ever seen the She-Ra Netflix show. It's awesome, so I made them all monstery. Right. So yeah, that's at Hawanja at DeviantArt. Here's my webcomic at hawanja.com. It's about ninjas and stuff that fight demons, etc., etc. And then I also have my Dirty Kitchen comics on this side, which is more of just a webcomic kind of thing. So, you know, if you want to see more of my work, it's at hawanja.com. Check that out. I have another YouTube channel called UCD Videos, which is non-political content. So if you want to see me play video games and open toys and, you know, a lot of video game consoles, that kind of thing. Non-political stuff, you know, pop culture type things, movie reviews, that kind of thing. Please check me out on UCD Videos. And I have a Facebook now. Oh, fuck off. This is my Facebook for UCD Videos. I haven't made one for Why I Hate the World yet, but, you know, you can follow me here, and I post videos and links to all of my stuff on facebook.com/UCD Videos. So, anyway, that's all the stuff that I've got going. Thank you guys all for joining. And we will do another one, most likely in the middle of next week. And I think I might actually do a little bit of more coloring on this, so that way in the next stream we can just start with the shadows and highlights and gradients and things. Depending on how I feel, I don't know. But yeah, that's what we got. Thank you guys for joining, and I will talk to you all next time. Adios.